Hey, everyone. Andrew Hall, Dr. Kennard with The Rage. So Rage, I was listening to watching one of your videos, and you're going to retire the Rage? Is this what's going on?
Yeah, eventually I am. I'm starting a new channel. I can't decide on the name. I'm gonna put out a couple polls and have people help me. Let me turn that down. But yeah, you know uh, it's probably different if you demonetize it yourself. But like if YouTube takes action to you, it's the death of your channel. If they
Oh, yeah.
take action against you, I don't get any play in the algorithm. Just looking at my views 2 years ago on similar content, it's just been really bad. So I'm gonna play by their rules and see if something can take off.
I think it's a good idea to keep your channel that you have right now, because there'll be times you're just going to want to rage.
Oh yeah, and it'll be a long transition, and yeah, some people have kind of like talked me out of because my main fear is that it seems like YouTube is coming after channels like mine, channels that
Yeah.
are unadulterated, and I've had some walk the edge content with some hate preachers especially, so I'm afraid of losing all of that. So that's like my
Yeah.
big fear. But people have taught me a little. Somebody sent me this message, pretty much telling me about this court case that's going on and how actually privating the videos might actually make it worse on me, and that
Oh,
if
really?
yeah, and I can't remember the details, the name of the case, but essentially this content creator is suing YouTube. So if the content creator wins the lawsuit, well, then I might not have anything to worry about, right? So like they're saying, yeah, just hold off and kind of don't do anything rash right now, kind of thing. But I do want to start another channel and just play by the rules and try to get a channel to take off. Talking politics, get really back into talking politics again.
Yeah. I hear what you're saying. From what I understand, and if I was going to rename the channel, I would probably do a keyword search, to tell you the truth. I don't want to get. I know people's eyes glaze over when I start talking inside baseball content creating crap, but
Yeah.
I would probably do some keyword exploration on what kind of audience, because people search on YouTube for
Yeah.
atheism or liberal democracy or something like that.
And there is formulas that work. It's just I've always ignored them. I want to be
So have I.
creatively independent, and I want to name the videos the way I want to name them. I want to describe them the way I want to describe them. So this will be an attempt to try to actually take it a lot more seriously.
Yeah, I hear what you're saying, brother. I wish you the best with that. About trying to muddle through the YouTube algorithm. It's a slog. That's what it is.
Yeah, and it's like you can. I heard you was talking about you still have your super chats available even though you demonetize the channel, and for me, I can't do that. It's like
Yes.
and super chats is that big part to where it really highlights out a comment, and you can interact with, especially for somebody like me that just horrible at paying attention to the side chat. You get that big yellow notification. You see
Yes.
that, right?
Yes. Well, you know what and I'm sorry for coughing. What I freaking can't stand watching those Amazon ads on YouTube. They are just out there brainwashing people, thinking Amazon's a great company. And if you have talked to anyone, I have a coworker who worked for Amazon as a driver, and he told horror stories. He was like, he worked for them for a couple of months, and I'm going to cough again.
Yeah, I've got a cold myself, so I'll try not to cough into the microphone.
It's tough, but he said a couple of horror stories, peeing in bottles kind of horror stories, how they monitor you when you are a driver. So yeah, it boils my blood when I see a YouTube ad for Amazon. It's like, yeah, I do not want that with my content. I'd rather I would rather have people super chat me or become members or patrons. Yeah.
Yeah, when I was monetized, people would send me, like messages about the ads that they would see on my channel. Some of them would be like, really Christian ads for like, I can't remember the name of the Christian streaming site, but it'd be like Christian streaming sites and stuff like that. And it's like, huh? Or it'd be like Trump ads. It's like, yeah, I didn't really like that. And I hate ads myself. I think, with the new channel, I'd probably take the route you're going if it's not going to mess with the algorithm, because I think it's really YouTube putting the hammer down on you that they hide you in the algorithm. I think if I demonetize the channel and I can go without ads, but still have those little things like super chats and have the algorithm open to me, I'll be able to play around with it. But it's that F word. They really don't like the F word. Misinformation, coronavirus misinformation. They made an attempt to crack down on it, but like I'm about to cover Pastor Sherry today when I stream, and she has 39 hours of COVID misinformation. Her channel's still up, It's like, but they don't like that F word.
Well, that's the thing. When you have a sick society, Dean writes, we have an Amazon warehouse here, and right now people are happy with having the jobs due to the last couple of years. I expect that to change. Yeah. When you have a sick society, people will flock to the least sick option, right? Yep. So if it's a question between cancer and diabetes, they may just opt for the diabetes. And I guess I'm stretching this metaphor and analogy a bit far. But yeah, a lot of people would be happy with an Amazon job, even if they do get abused.
Mm. Oh yeah. And that's kind of like the conversation I've been having politically about democratizing the workplace and getting that equal slice of the pie. What would be an equal slice of the pie? I don't know. Your truck drivers getting compensated, not having a dictator over their shoulder telling them what they have to do, when to do it, and not having your CEO having so much money he can pretend like he's an astronaut. Maybe that would help.
It's once again, it's important to point out that when you have these kind of wide wealth disparities in a society, and I can't believe I have to effing keep saying this, but if you're new here, when you have so much wealth just concentrated in a clique, that clique is going to warp the politics and the economy for their own ends. And that means everyone else gets screwed over time.
Oh yeah. I mean, and especially like when you look at the numbers are undeniable. 90 people on this planet make half of the wealth that is made on this planet. Every single day, they get half of it. 90 people.
Yes.
9 billion people get the other half. I mean, that's astronomical.
Yeah. Well, when Donald Trump was bragging about how he gets along with dictators, it's like, of course you get along with dictators because you're in the same socioeconomic class.
And I should say 90 families, not 90 people. 90 families.
Okay, sure. Yeah. Sure. Okay. So, but once again, authoritarians have a tendency of being friendly with other authoritarians in order to keep their authoritarian rules. It's a similar thing that happened in Europe with monarchies, right? When monarchists wanted to protect other monarchies, because if any country that actually became democratic or republic, well, that was a threat to all the other monarchies.
Yeah, and that's the pretty much the argument that Dr. Richard Wolff makes in his argumentation for for socialism, is that if you look at the economic systems and how they fell, we went from monarchies, feudalism, and then capitalism came in, and we did that pretty much through revolution. And what happened was, while we were decrying democracy, we were setting up these little kingships. It's just not, you're not king of a country now, you're king of a corporation. Right. And that has been allowed to run rampant since the advent of capitalism. It's never been checked, and it's just, they don't call themselves king anymore. They don't rule people in that way, but they still have the wealth.
Right. And once again, I feel like this is I don't want people to think we're just jerking each other off against screw capitalism, but it really is true. The nature of the oligarchs is international in scope. So but when you look at workers' organizations, they're very, they're leftists out there. Let's say who will proudly say, yes, the nature of the struggle is international in nature, right? Is the fact that, just as if one person's rights here in the States get infringed on, or another person's rights in another country get infringed on, then we are all in danger to some extent. It's the same thing with workers. If a worker gets abused in Vietnam, then we are all put at risk.
Oh yeah, and you can see it a little bit. Like Joe Manchin is in so much trouble right now in West Virginia because that major union that supported his candidacy, that helped him win the election, that he was so proud to get that honorary membership for. Well, they've come out like, dude, like Build Back Better was going to actually help unions and protect them from corporations, because there was actual legislation in there that protects labor unions against strike busting and stuff like that. So it's like what are you? So he's in hot shit because this isn't. It's an issue that kind of goes across party. It's just unfortunately the right wing doesn't quite understand the issue. So even though they kind of believe the same things we do about, hey, we're not getting all these money, these rich people shouldn't be making all the money, they don't know how they got there, and they don't know the solution to it, because the solution to it has been demonized to them since they were babies.
Well, that's why it's I'm going to bang my head up against the wall and try to get the message out as long as I humanly can, about trying to raise awareness about the nature of workers' struggles here. It is once again, I could be making a lot more money just talking about reality show.
Oh yeah,
reality show stars, right?
Not to knock cats or anything, but if I spend all my time, if I just go bought myself a little kitten, spend all my time recording the kitten, and made a little cat channel, I'd be good.
You just gotta look at the number of views that the videos of my cat gets versus me doing this. Yeah, it's clear. It's like, hey, who doesn't like cats, right? I like cats.
Yeah, so the nature of YouTube is astounding, and like when it comes to social, not too many socialists in America, at least unless if you're a realist, you're not going to be like, oh, America needs to go full out socialism, red communism. No, we understand that that's never going to happen here, but we got to stop being afraid of it. We got to start incorporating it, and we got to start improving our lives, right? Like we've got to start looking at ourselves as just as good as those quote unquote bosses, owners, oligarchs, whatever you want to call them.
Yeah, and most of the bosses, they got there because their parents had money, right? I mean, I'm not saying that they're not talented, but the thing is, they got a leg up.
When you're talking about the top, definitely, and that's what kind of alludes to the argument, because good people like Oz, who has been very successful and probably worked his ass off to get his little business. The conversation becomes convoluted. Well, you're talking about me. No, we're talking about the top primarily. Sure, I'm sure every little business could probably have its tweaks to where the workers get just a bit more, but we're talking about this kind of like old money system of capitalism that's been around. Like just go ask anybody that comes across wealth. There's old money and there's new money, and that old money, it really doesn't care about your new money.
Right.
And that's that corporate just thing that we've lived in for so long.
That's right, Chris Maria. Universal healthcare, evil socialist ideas. That's right. That's what they said about Medicare and Medicaid. When they were coming out during the 60s, it's like, oh, it's evil communism and socialism. Ronald Reagan was against Medicare and Medicaid when they came out.
Yeah, I mean, and it's all a result of we left that World War II and we were at odds with Russia. We split Berlin down the middle, whatever, and we just immediately started not only demonizing the Nazis, but we started demonizing the communists and the socialists. And for so long, people are born into that, but if you really look at World War II, you want to look at the heroes of World War II, it's the Russians, without a doubt.
Well, they lost 20 million people. They lost 20
and they never stopped fighting.
People, 20
million. They never
people.
stopped fighting. Like it was insane. Yeah.
It's not to discount the sacrifices people here in the States
from
Britain,
the other allies, yeah, sure.
France. But they were the ones who won the war. They were the ones who won the war. And I've said, and I think a lot of other people have said, that one of the reasons why we did Normandy, one of the reasons why we did invade Western Europe, is to keep Western Europe from going communist, because it was pretty clear, even at the end of 1941, that things are not going well for the Germans in Russia, and that they had been stopped. And once you stop an attack, it's once that momentum stops, it's difficult to keep going.
And you have to. It really was like, as far as I know, you know more about this history than I do, so correct me if I'm wrong. But this was before Stalin started killing all of his own people and stuff, right?
Actually, it's funny because it's fun. Well, it's not funny, but I was watching a video on Stalin's purges within the military last night because this is what I do with my spare time. Everyone, when my
I
girlfriend
do
is
too.
quarantining during
I was
COVID.
looking at what was the Stalingrad, the battle for Stalingrad last night as I went to sleep.
Yeah, the Battle of Stalingrad is interesting too, and it's an example of what do you do when you're really desperate and you make bad choices.
Mm.
For the German part, but for the most of the purges with Stalin were in the 30s, like
All right,
the
so before, all right.
yeah, so the purges in the military were like 1937 or so. The Great Famine in Ukraine was before that, during the collectivization. Because what happened is that the communist government wanted to abolish individual property and collectivization all the farms under these large groups, and that didn't go well. Didn't go well for the everyday farmers, especially in Ukraine.
Well, yes, because my point, because I thought it was after, because it's just like the Red Army is, but it wasn't just the Red Army, but the people fought so hard for the motherland that they didn't want to give this new economic freedom that they had away. And if you look at like there was this real fear that communism was going to take over Europe because communism had just exploded the Russian economy. I was reading something like they literally within 50 years went from that old Bolshevik, kind of old world country to this space age country, and with one of the biggest economies in the world, and that was the socialism and communism.
Yeah, I was looking through one of the books I have about the industrialization of the West and the rise and fall of the great powers. It's an old book, but it has a lot of pretty graphs in it and charts. But the industrialization of Russia / the Soviet Union, it is impressive. It did make leaps within a short period of time. But when you go back to pre-World War I Russia, the slope of the curve of them industrializing was pretty freaking steep. And one of the thoughts in Germany pre-World War I, there was a realization that they would get buried under the Russian state if they didn't attack within a certain window of time. Like their ability to fight off a fully industrialized Russia in the future was.
Oh yeah, there was definitely a fear. The Nazis hated the communists, and there was that fear that communism would overtake Germany.
But back to Stalingrad, when you look at the German attack, and Stalingrad was in 1942. Everyone was that. When you're desperate, you have to do desperate things. And so the Germans try to do three things, three strategic objectives with one army group. And you're not supposed to do that.
They thought it was going to be easy for them. And then it seemed like it at first, right?
As skeptics, we always have to be on the guard against being overly positive, right? I think we trend as a species to make predictions to be more in our favor, right? More overly positive than negative, most of us, right? So when we think about our own objectives or what's going to be coming down the road for us, we're like, sure, I can do this, or sure, I'll be super successful at this thing because it can't be that hard, can it? And that's something to be on guard on. Yeah.
Yeah, and what I don't get is because people always ask, well, why did Hitler go against their non-aggression pact, and why did he betray Stalin? And it was like, well, like he kind of had to. Like that was the whole point of World War II. Is the Germans had nothing. They had no resources. They had no real livable land to expand. And like his eyes were always on that Ukraine area to settle Germans there and to have the resources. Like it was like the whole point of his war initially. In my opinion, just studying the history, it's where he really messed up. He should have waited. He should have dominated Europe and then turned on the Russians.
The thing is, once again, Nazis are stupid. They're stupid. And I know that we watch the traditional narrative, right? That Nazis were these supermen and women, but they made some real stupid choices that made them make more stupid choices and more stupid choices. And the neo-Nazis that you see today, the brain surgeons, right? The geniuses out there, they're
Yeah.
just like the Nazis back in the 30s and the 40s and the 20s. Yeah, not making bad choices, doing mean things, and then getting themselves into trouble. That eventually destroys them. Though that is just how Nazis were. They were not these super better women. We wanted to build them up to be that way, so that we got to feel better about ourselves, about the sacrifices that we made.
Yeah. Growing up, you always heard about, their superior army, and they had superior technology, and I think that they did do with some of the first
They,
countries they invaded. But when you're talking about Britain and Russia, I don't think that's necessarily true at that point, is
yeah,
it?
even the French had better tanks. They had just
Yeah,
as good
yeah.
tanks and so you ask, so why did the Germans roll over the French in like 6 weeks in 1940? It's because, well, the Germans knew how to use the tanks better, and they got lucky. Luck has a lot to do with life. The older that you get, everyone, and tell me if I'm wrong, the more you realize that luck still is important, but you got to get lucky too. You got to
Yeah.
get lucky. And sometimes, people get really lucky and they pull it off like, oh, I meant to do that. This was it was all part of the plan. It's
Yep.
like, yeah, okay, it might have been part of the plan, but you got lucky in executing your plan.
Yeah, and pretty much all of your successful people have had that, whether they admit it or not. But then you just have people on that world just unlucky with everything. I would be one of them. I have
Yeah.
no luck.
Well, Mel Brooks, the comedian, man is still alive. He's like in his knots in his 90s, but he was actually fighting in World War II. Well, he was an entertainer in World War II, right? But he said, success is 1/3 talent, 1/3 grind, and 1/3 luck. 1/3 of success to Mel Brooks is luck, and it seems reasonable. It seems like a reasonable assertion.
Oh, sure, without a doubt. Just look at half the people that are famous today. You're like, why? How did that even happen? You're not too bright, Chris Pratt.
Well, yeah, people don't, and here's the thing that I mean, it's difficult to wrap our minds around how much we don't understand about our own lives, right? People don't understand why they're successful. They may not understand why they're not successful. The only thing, we're like scientists in our own lives, right? We're just trying to figure it out. Like, how did I get here?
Yeah, that's like the whole purpose of life, is just figuring shit out.
Yeah.
Little
exactly.
moments, big moments.
Yeah.
Philosophical this morning. I've been smoking weed.
Well, where are you? Well, I thought, I usually have to predict or try to discern how many bowls you've had, but this seems more like 2-bowl range.
Yeah, I'm like, I think I'm smoking my third one now. I've been getting up earlier and earlier and earlier, so it's kind of this weird thing. I'm getting older. Every day I get older, because every day I go to bed a little bit earlier and wake up a little bit earlier.
I can't tell you how happy I am about my sleep patterns right now, because I used to go to bed really late and get up at like 9 or 10, right? This is before kids. And then the kids fused my brain rage and chat. They fused it. So I was getting up at like 5 or 6 in the morning, sometimes 4. Yeah. Sometimes, my sleep patterns are all messed up.
See, that's super early. I'm usually a 6 o'clock person, yeah.
But now my brain is resetting. Yes, it is resetting. So now I'm going to bed at like midnight and getting up at like 8. Like I was up at 6, 7, like 10 minutes of 8 this morning. I'm like, well, I have the show all set up, so that's good.
It feels so much better when you get good sleep. I mess up because sometimes I will stay up and I'll go into a room, and those are usually the times I get myself in trouble. And usually it's because I'll just go off on somebody and I rage out. Sometimes for a reason, sometimes for no reason. Medications, yay. But like the last time I went into a Smoky Saint room, and like the medications were just really, I was just in a good mood. I wasn't in a mood to argue and bicker. And I went in for knowing, like, if I go in and I'm happy and my two enemies are there and I'm like just shooting the shit with them, that's not going to look good. But I did it anyway. And sure as shit, I'm getting a lot of comments about, how does Smokey's ass taste? I'm like, dude, it was my meds. They kicked in, and sometimes, it's always late at night when they like kind of kick in and kind of hit me through from the whole day. So it's like, man, I just gotta go to bed at midnight, wake up at 6, you're good.
Ray, can you handle the show for a second? This is a really important phone call, and I
Oh yeah,
never
sure.
do this. Thanks.
Oh yeah, no problem. I always love talking about myself. So I am a god of men. I kid you. What's up, y'all? I'll just talk about what I'm going to be doing at. I'll go ahead and plug what I'm going to be doing at noon. Yeah, Crypta, you was there, so I actually got to meet Crypta. It was the first time I was in a stream with Crypta that night. It was fun. You know, I'm trying to get rid of the drama from the channel. I'm really tired of just drama. But at noon, I'm going to be streaming. And I'm going to be talking about some interesting things. Madeline Allen, I don't know if you guys know that story. She went missing on December 13th, a college student in Utah. And they found her 5 days later. They found her on December 18th using her phone to track her. They found her in the basement covered in coal. She had met this person on a dating app, and he kidnapped her. There's going to be plenty of I'm going to try to warn people. There could be some triggerings with that, but she was found. So I'm going to be talking about that story. And she was found alive, which doesn't happen too often nowadays. So there is definitely some good aspects to the story. Also going to be talking about Pastor Sherry. Now, if you guys don't know my channel, I talk about Pastor Sherry every once in a while. She runs an online church called Three Hearts Church. It's actually an international online church. They're all over the world, and they're mainly centered in guess it, y'all. Can you guess it? Africa. A lot of this really fundamental evangelical cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs Christianity going on in Africa right now. So she has coronavirus. So I'm going to be talking a little bit about her and her. I mentioned her earlier when I came on this stream. Just hours upon hours of coronavirus is fake. It's a false flag event. It's not real. So we'll be talking about that. Joe Manchin and Matt Powell. So what Andy's back, so it could be his show again.
I don't really see this, and I've said this before on other streams I've done, is that, you know, I see this as an hour thing. Whoever's on the show with me, whoever's in the chat, you know, I see this as an hour project. Maybe this is just me not wanting to take responsibility.
Yeah, it works, man. It works,
dude. And people in the chat, I don't know if anyone has been trying to get, like, what is it called, a PCR test for COVID. But it is insanely difficult to do. That was my doctor's office, and I won't be able to get a nasal swab test until Monday.
Wow. What good does that do?
And you see, when I go, because
you got to get it today. That's the point, right?
Because I can't go back to work until I get a proper PCR nasal swab test. It just hurts my brain, because so this is a conversation I had, and I'm sorry I'm going for this diversion from whatever the hell we're talking about. But I called a bunch of different places yesterday, and to see if I could get a proper test, right? Not a rapid response test, but a proper, you know, like it takes like a day or so to get your results back. I think it's called a PCR test. And so my doctor's office didn't have it. They thought, oh, we might be getting more tests in later on yesterday. Well, that didn't happen. There's some free testing sites. And I thought, oh, you could just, so I drove over to one. And I thought, oh, it'd just be like a drive. I might have to wait in line in my car. Okay, I can do that. Well, no, you would have to get out and wait and stand in line for what looked like hours. Wow. Because there was a line of people, dude. So the story doesn't end. So I called up the Cambridge Health Alliance, and by the way, fuck you. Oh, see, I said the word, Rage. I said the word. I shouldn't have said it.
It's so hard not to say it sometimes.
So the Cambridge Health Alliance, I called them. They said, yes, we do have tests, and yes, we can test you. Tell us the name of the doctor here. And I said, well, I got your phone number from my doctor, who happens to be out, and they're not part of this Cambridge Health Alliance. And they said, well, we can't give you a test then. And it's like, for reals? For reals?
That's insane, man. You know, and that's like, here in Michigan, we're having, like, it's the worst part of the pandemic for us. I'm not sure how it is for you.
Oh,
but
it's
like
gonna get
more people
worse.
are sick than ever.
Yeah.
And we're having this up and down weather. Like it was like 60 degrees 3 or 4 days ago. It wasn't supposed to snow until Monday, and yet it's snowing like a bitch right now.
Yeah.
I'm waking up and I'm like, well, we've had up and down weather. I probably have a cold. I definitely got something today, but then your mind is working. What if it's a breakthrough? I need to go get tested. I need to go
Oh
get
yeah.
tested.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
Oh wait.
if you don't have the test to go get tested, like what can you do at that point? All right.
What can you do? So I called one other place, right? Because I this is an hour long, multiple hours yesterday I spent trying to get tested. I called up another place right down the street, right? And they said, it's like, hey, I see you have these tests available. They go, yeah, there are no appointments available, and you have to wait in line and the line is 2 to 4 hours. And I go, does that mean I have to wait inside with a bunch of other people 2 to 4 hours? She goes, well, actually, what it means is that you got to wait outside because the line's outside. And then when you come inside, you're going to have to wait inside with a bunch of other people to get tested. And it's like, I'm going to myself, if I didn't have COVID before this, then once I'm in that petri dish,
And
I
you live in Massachusetts. I imagine you get very similar winters to us.
Yeah.
So 2 to 4 hours outside in a winter times, and like, thank you, no, thank you.
So I'm looking at. I'm actually looking at Jesse Bear just messaged whether or not I got her message, and I'm looking at it right now. I'm sorry, Jesse. I'll take a look at it as soon as I'm done with the show, because obviously I'm not getting effing tested today, and I'm going to have some time on my hands. Yeah. So the doctor. Oh, did I don't even know. I'm so infuriated. So the doctor's office just called me, and I'm thinking, oh, they're going to give me the test today. They go, no, dude, you are effed, and we're all effed. And guess what? You won't be able to get tested until Monday through this doctor's office. It's like, until Monday? You mean you're not until like on Monday, and that's the closest time. And so I set up an appointment for 9:15. I'm sorry, everyone. No show on Monday. No show on Monday.
I got to take it when you can get it.
Because I am going to walk over to my doctor's office, get the nasal swab test, and then who knows when I'll be able to go back to, and hopefully it'll be negative, and then I'll be able to go back to work at that point. And I will say this about my job: it's a very slow time of year right now, and they've been very good to me about, Andy, just take your time. We know, you're a good worker, and do what you need to do. So, yeah. Yeah, urgent care means waiting. Basically, this place down the street is an urgent care facility, and that's like 2 to 4 hour wait. I drove by it yesterday to see if the hype was real. The hype was real. People waiting outside.
That's crazy.
People jammed, and this is not a large urgent care facility either. It's dude.
See, the one I go through to is appointment only, and it's drive-through, so it's outside, but they come out to your car. You're not waiting in the cold, like that's just insane to me.
and Walgreens offers. See, I'm just going on this whole freaking diatribe. Maybe I had some issues about this particular topic. So I checked the Walgreens because Walgreens offers these tests, but blanked. Like, everyone is just, there's nothing available. I checked my city's site because they offer testing, nothing in December. There's like no open slots to get tested in this city via the city for the rest of the month. And it's like, wow. Okay, so now I think I got it out. Thank you for listening to me, everyone. Thank you for watching me vent about my problems with getting tested.
Well, I mean, it's definitely an issue right now, and I think it's, I didn't get to see Biden's speech yesterday, but I think he was directly addressing the issue with testing yesterday in his speech. So I want to watch that, see kind of what kind of actions he's kind of taken. But like, this is a huge issue, and it's just the supply chain across the board, especially. We're in our most critical time with this pandemic. We're near the end. I think all the numbers are showing we're getting towards herd immunity, but this is what happens. And we got to make it through this period, and you need to be able to test. So I think I think there's a surplus of the tests you can buy from the store. But again, as you said, to go back to work, you need one of those real tests.
A real test. Exactly. That's why I was talking to the nurse. Okay. So the girlfriend. I'm not even gonna. I can't even talk to you about the issues that she's had. No, she's doing well. I just want to say this. She is doing well. Her oxygen levels are good. There was a period of time that we thought on Sunday that maybe a hospital visit would be necessary, but her oxygen levels are fine. She's not coughing a whole lot. She's doing well. However, there are, and I don't want to tell tales out of school. She's not here. If she was here in the chat, then she might feel comfortable talking about it. But she has had troubles accessing services. Her doctor has had trouble accessing services too.
Mm-hmm.
And that is the system that we live in right now.
And you know, honestly, I was watching this. I've been watching more and more Kyle Kalinske lately, but it wasn't something he said. It was I can't remember her name, but the woman he works with now. I can't remember her name, and it's driving me nuts. I'll have to go find it as soon as I'm out of this room. But she was mentioning, you know, just the fact that, you know, we don't give third world countries, you know, the Western civilization, we have the vaccine, but third world countries don't. We're not sharing it with them.
Yeah.
And that's how these new variants are festering, and that's how coronavirus really is lingering like it is. So we need to. This virus should be for the entire world. There shouldn't be a profit motive behind it. And we need to learn our lessons from that shit and address that shit, because, you know, Africa right now is trying to reverse engineer the Moderna vaccine, I believe it is, because we're not sharing it with them.
Yeah. There's, from what I understand, there are some countries available to manufacture. I don't know which of the vaccines it is. Oh, hey, Jesse Bear. Because I know Jesse had COVID, had a bad laughing in disbelief. I finished my steroid meds and my coughing, shortness of breath is back. Oh no, okay. I finished my steroid meds and my coughing, shortness of breath is back with a vengeance. I am so sorry to hear that, Jesse Bear. I'm so sorry to hear that. Yeah, dude. And then, of course, all in the back, all in the forefront are these businesses saying that they can't find employees and blaming the fact and saying things like the Zers and the millennials are just lazy. It's like, no, people are sick. People,
Yeah.
It isn't just the fact that you do crappy jobs. It isn't the fact that people don't want to work crappy jobs. It's a fact that people have long COVID and people just have COVID right now. And so, of course, you're not going to be able to find people. Of course, the workforce is going to get smaller in what's going on right now. You can't help that.
Yeah. You know, we had it right. You know, at first we had to completely shut down. And I understand it's a hard line to walk, you know, incentivizing people to go back to work, but you needed to have some kind of bounce back unemployment program set up for when people continued to catch COVID and they were missing work.
Yeah.
You know, because most states have ended that unemployment now. The federal government has ended that unemployment now. And if you're getting sick now, you're missing work for 10 to 14. So like, even if the symptoms are mild economically, you're taking a hit to the face right now.
Yeah.
If you have COVID.
You're right about that. You're right about that, Rage. And you're right theoretically, Theo. Geopolitics are tragic. There's no doubt about that. And yeah, Jesse had a breakthrough infection. Well, that was the same thing that happened with girlfriend. She has a breakthrough infection too.
Yeah, I woke up today and my chest is definitely heavy. I had the long haulers, so it's like I always have a heavy chest, but I'm definitely sick this morning. You know,
Yeah.
and it's probably the weather has been up and down, but it could be a breakthrough, and I probably need to go get tested. It's the last night I have to work. I can't miss work because I'm off for the next 4 days for Christmas, and even when you get tested, until your test results come back, they tell you to go to work, and it's like, well, what if I have COVID?
Yeah.
So I work. I'm right up on people, you know, like,
oh yeah, dude, you're
lots of people in and out, you know.
Yeah.
And they're like, go back to work, you know. It's like that's what we're not taking the pandemic seriously enough. You know?
We are not. And you would think that, you know, there are some countries that are like Israel. All right, it's a small country, affluent country. It is a country, regardless of how you feel about their politics and how they treat their neighbors. It is a country that has been much more deft in dealing with the pandemic, right? They have a siege mentality about the pandemic, as well as New Zealand has, and smaller countries. You know, each one has had like New Zealand, geographically, it's been a beneficial area, right? They're an island; they can just shut their borders. But there are nations that have taken this seriously. I feel from the jump, and there's been a majority of countries who've just kind of slept through this, or who have, if we were going to give a review, Rage, of how most countries, if you were the supervisor to these countries, they'd be like, you have half-assed your job. You have just gone.
Oh yeah. And that's the problem with capitalism, because capitalism runs everything. We have this "you work till you die" mentality, and what, we're going to shut down business because people might die? Are you kidding me? People might get sick. Yeah.
And Jon Stewart pointed this out. I was listening to Jon Stewart, and he was saying this is exactly what happened after 9/11. They put people back into that zone, knowing that there were things in the air, that there was pollution in the air, and they didn't care because things had to go back to work. The economic, wheels had to keep spinning.
We won't even take care of each other in our times of the most tragedy, right? Like, we have this invisible killer going around. We need to be super safe. Isolation has its own effects, but luckily we have outlets like this. We could have really handled this whole thing a lot differently, but we just don't take care of each other. Everything has a cost. Everything has a price tag. That's the world we live in.
So you talk about isolation has its own effects, right? So I haven't been able to be in the same room with my girlfriend for a couple of days. And I know that other people have it much worse than I am. But if you're wondering, how is my emotional support pie doing? Not well. I'm almost done with my emotional support pie.
Well, yeah, I mean, without a doubt, like the year that I was like pretty much in this apartment, like when we were shut down, not doing, like, I gained so much weight, it's crazy. And now I can't lose it. It's like, and just the solitary of it all. It's just me and my daughter here. So like when you're not interacting with other people, that has an effect on you, man.
And this helps. Being online helps. Showing my face to other people, this helps me. There's no doubt about it. It's a coping mechanism. But it's just not the same thing.
It's just not the same thing. Yeah.
Trying to figure out how to stream with my kids on Christmas, right? Or streaming, with my girlfriend's relatives. It's just not the same thing as seeing people face to face, and it takes a you pay a cost for that.
I'll say that, like, I am. So I'm shocked a little bit. Like the two biggest Trumpers in my family. The two biggest ones that were my dad and my uncle, right? And my dad is fully vaxxed. My uncle's fully vaxxed. It's like, and they're talking about it like a liberal would talk about it. And it's like, wait a minute, because all I do here is that really crazy side of Trumpism, right? And the national politicians and the talk show hosts, they leap on that and they cater to that. But like talking to a couple of normal Trumpers, it's like if you talk to them about the vaccine, they'll say pretty much the same thing. Like it works, and they're fully vaxxed. And it just shocked the hell out of me, especially my uncle. I mean, we got in so many knockout, drag out fights over Trump back in the day. In fact, he's not even on my Facebook anymore because of it. And just to hear him talk like that, it was kind of like, this makes me feel a little bit better.
Yeah. It is interesting because I imagine that there are people, who were like, kind of pro-Bolshevik or pro-Nazi. It's like, we don't agree with everything.
Yeah. But, this is the first time my dad's back since the pandemic started because he lives in North Carolina. And I am a little worried about that because COVID is at its worst now. And he's already had COVID and he's fully vaxxed, but he is like, he's retiring this year, like he's in that demographic to where it's like, I don't know if we should be doing this yet, because when he's up here, the whole family wants to see him. He's got to see everybody, it's crazy.
There's a lot of people leaving the workforce just because they can't retire, right? They're just like they're looking at their 401ks, their IRAs, and they're going, I can do it.
That's what my dad told me. My dad could probably work. My dad could probably work another five years easily. Like he's still in great health. It's just he's like, why not?
Well, there are people who are going that I don't need to work traditional jobs. Like for me, my day job, It's part-time. I work less than 30 hours a week, but I'm here all the time, you know?
Hmm. Yeah, that's me. That's kind of why I kept the job that I have now, because it did allow me more time to do this. I can pretty much work the schedule I want. If I want to leave early, I can usually work that out. If I want to stay later, I can usually work that out. Um, so getting a more traditional job would make it a lot harder. So it's
Mhm.
kind of why I've always resisted it. But yeah, it's when I'm not at work, I'm usually here,
Yeah.
or helping my kid do something. But the hours I spend doing this, I couldn't even relate how many hours I've spent in the last 4 years.
Have you ever broken
Just
down how much you get paid versus how many hours you put down? Is
oh,
that
it's
is a depressing.
man,
That's a depressing number.
fractions of a cent,
Yeah.
fractions fractions of a cent. Because I've
In the
got
old days,
1,300 videos, but the hours that go into the research and man, I couldn't even put a number on it.
I think back in the 19th century, maybe the 18th century, they would cut coins, right? So you get a half shilling, which is literally just half.
Yeah.
You would have to divide up a penny. So like you wouldn't. It would be like a sliver. That's your hourly wage, sir. It's like,
That
yes.
was
Can I have some more?
I had a debate with Praise I Am that I'm not, that I wish that I was Rage. And it was about Atheist, I shit you not. Atheist making so much money on YouTube. And I'm not like, there's atheists out there probably making a pretty good hustle. Jimmy Snow's, he's doing pretty good for himself. You know what I'm saying?
Oh yeah, well, he does great content.
Yeah, exactly. But
He's not jerking people off.
yeah. I could go, man. I have such an up and down thing with, because like his channel's like, but he's probably he's makes enough money to have his own studio. It's
Sure.
his full-time job. Yeah, there are those atheists out there, but most of us. And his argument was that myself at the time, 1,000 subscriber channel, just got monetized, seeing those pennies rolling in. I had to explain to him, I'm like, my dude, all right, let me explain to you, how YouTube monetizes my channel. They say I can't draw any money from this YouTube account until it makes $100. Do you know how long that takes, Praise? I'm like, Praise, it's like 6 months.
It isn't just about atheists on YouTube, or let's say it is about when you're doing art, right? Whether you're an author in the real world, whether you're doing YouTube, it's a pyramid-based system. So you have the Stephen Kings up at the top, and Stephen King's a great writer. I enjoy Stephen King's works. I'm not, crapping on Stephen King, but this is just how the economic model works: is that you get the top getting a lot of money, and this is true whether you're a writer or whether you're on YouTube or whether you're a comedian. You get people making bank at the very top, and then everybody else. Sure, there are a few people, and I can count them. I can think of a few comedians who aren't at the very top, who are making good middle class wages. I can think of a few podcasters who are making good middle income wages, and they probably have like a day job too.
Yeah, I think most of us, whether you're small or big, probably still have a day job.
Yeah.
It's just, what kind of career really is this? It's not. It's a side hustle, but it requires a lot of work. You've got to put those hours in. Like me, I when I first started doing this, I didn't know how to edit videos at all. I just had a webcam, and I brought over this Jesus-looking Christian who was a deeply conservative dude, and we'd argue about religion and politics, and that's how I started. It's just a webcam, and that was really crappy. It was like no intros, no StreamYard, nothing, just a webcam and two dudes arguing.
Yeah. Crypto Mario writes, monetization, the system they have is toxic. Nobody cares about your channel, just their channel. They don't care as long as you give them money and attention. Yeah, YouTube.
Yeah, and I think that's the kind of good thing that I've had on my channel is that's the good thing about once it got demonetized, is that there was no money incentive anymore. We did have the tipping system and PayPal and Patreon, but the channel itself was just there was just no money. Like, that was the philosophy of not changing everything and not trying to monetize again. Ali was with me at the time. We're both, I mean, she's definitely a communist and I'm definitely lean socialist, and we're like, yeah, screw the capitalist,
Yeah. Yeah, I heard Mark Maron say this, and of course, Maron's a great comedian as well as a podcaster. I talk about him way too much. Is that I heard him say is like, at this point in my life, I just want to do good work.
Yeah,
And
I just want to affect people. Like, just have a conversation that's free of judgment. And that's just so hard to do even for me. But
yeah,
these conversations are the conversations we weren't allowed to have before. That's what it's kind of always been about for me.
yeah, yeah. And the thing is, the other side, the other side is using this medium obviously for getting their message out. I mean, I think it would be not responsible for people like us not to get the other side out, the right side.
Yeah, well, we are in a culture war in this country, and people don't like to acknowledge that, or they'll make fun of it. But we are, and we have been for quite a while. And their culture was losing for a really long time, and we're seeing the retaliation of that.
Yeah, exactly.
I think Joyner Lucas said it best. I don't know if you've ever seen the song "I'm Not Racist" by Joyner Lucas.
I don't think I see that. Oh, wait a minute. Maybe I have.
Yeah, you don't actually see Joyner Lucas in the video. It's this big white Trump dude against this young black dude, and Joyner's rapping. And the black dude said, you elected Donald Trump. Obama was half as black, and you elected Donald Trump to pay us back for that. Something along those lines. And it was just like the truest thing. This is a culture war, and we're seeing the retaliation of that culture.
Yeah. It's all that it is true, and I would probably say that and Jesse Pear writes down rage. That's a great video, very eye opening. Yeah. And Marmaduke Scarlet says, I would love to give money, but I spend it all on my 2 chronically ill cats. And you know what? I have to tell you something. If you can't afford to contribute to content creators, that is fine. The best thing, I mean, in lieu of that, if you could tell people about the channel, about the conversations that we have.
Yeah, that's
advertising is word of mouth, to tell you the truth.
Honestly, that's the best thing you can do for my channel, because YouTube has shut it down. So much. I always appreciate money donations. It always kind of made me feel a little weird. If I'm going to make money off of YouTube, I think it should be those damn capitalists paying me for putting content on their platform, as opposed to their customers paying me. It's I always appreciate it, and it is a showing of how much you support me and the things that I say in the channel. But at the same time, it is that capitalism I freaking hate so much.
Well, I gotta tell you, this is what makes me somewhat unpopular. And this goes like outside of my life, like when I was doing stand-up too. It's the fact that I do not buy into this toxic system of whatever it is that I'm in. If I feel like I'm in a toxic system, it's like I will try to make it work for me, and that means I'm not going to try to make it work for you.
Yeah.
And it's like, what do you mean you're not going to spend all your time in the club? What do you mean you're not going to do X, Y, and Z? It's like, yeah, I'm not doing that, because that creates this kind of codependency, which that's not my gig. I'm not going to ask other people to be codependent. I would not be codependent to anyone else. It's like, I'm not interested in that model. And thank you, John Hudson. I appreciate that thought.
It is going to be a challenge, though, like trying to conform and make videos and edit videos into what somebody else wants me to do, as opposed to what I want to do. I think that is going to be somewhat challenging. I'm kind of looking forward to that. But yeah, like I don't know. I think I think somebody could come along with a better platform. Kind of utilize what YouTube has done, but make it more, just more incentive for the creators, and a bit more freedom for us to just truly be creators and be ourselves. Because as unconformed as I am, I still walk that fine line of terms of service, because I have to. So, but at the same time, you've got to have that ability to just weed out the absolute extremism, and you've got to be able to have the ability to shut down a channel if you feel that way. So I don't know, I've got mixed feelings on it, but you think that there could be a better
an easier
model come along that would kind of even beat out YouTube, because it's more creator friendly.
At least it would have to be one of those platforms that is a nonprofit platform and something like on a co-op kind of basis, so as you have democracy in the workplace, you'd have to have democracy in the model too.
Yeah, it's something along those lines. Just I don't know. YouTube is definitely trying to take the company in a direction that's not what YouTube was. YouTube
Yeah,
for me was always, it's like a window into real people in the world, and not Netflix.
sure. And yeah, I mean, and so the reason why it has to be nonprofit is the fact that if there is a real competitor to YouTube, Google will just buy out that
Oh yeah, because the
platform.
monopolization of everything, right? Like,
So yeah,
yeah.
exactly. So that's how the market trends, is towards monopolization, right? I mean, you don't have to have a degree in economics to understand that.
You remember when
But
that was a bad word in this country? Like, at least they pretended it was.
well, what?
Mm.
I don't know. You know,
Uh,
wow,
Got
wow.
to save the mom and
Being
pop
angry,
stores. Where are
being
the mom and pop stores anymore?
being angry takes a lot of energy, and I feel
Mm.
like I I blew my load over this whole testing thing. He
Yeah,
says as he
yeah,
stares 10 miles away.
yeah. Don't read Marx, man, because it'll make you angry. Like, they demonize this book, and I'm reading something like this man was writing. I don't know how long ago, over 100 years ago, and it's like he's describing the world we live in.
Well,
It's
one of my
insane.
favorite Marx quotes is that he said, "Class determines consciousness." Now, before Marx, a lot of people thought that, you got what you got because you deserved it, right? In other words, you worked hard for it. But Marx said, no, that's not necessarily true for a majority of people. Your class determines your consciousness, right?
Mhm.
It determines your tendencies. It determines your likes and your non-likes. Insightful comment by Marx.
Yeah, it's definitely been a different experience the second time reading it than it was when I was a 20-something-year-old kid that didn't understand politics at all.
Yeah,
So it's and just like when he talks about capitalism and the effects of capitalism, you kind of look around the world we live in and you're like, yeah, he kind of nailed it.
yeah, yeah. So we're running down to the end of our time. Rage, you want to talk? You got anything coming up, brother?
Well, I already announced my stream at noon. It should be a fun
Good.
one.
When I was talking to my doctor's office, going, "This can't
Yeah,
be true.
yeah, yeah. So
This
yeah, I
can't
am
be true."
streaming
That
at
was
noon.
what that was all about. When I was talking to my doctor's office, it's like, really,
Had
really,
you heard about
Monica?
the Madeline Allen story, Andy?
I don't. Tell me about it.
She's a college student. She went missing on the 13th. They found her on the 18th. She was in Utah, and they found her in the basement of some dude covered in coal. He was trying to hide her. He'd been brutally assaulting her for 5 days. She met him on a dating app. Um,
Wow,
yeah, I'll
wow.
be talking about that. I'll be talking
Okay,
about that.
dude. Yeah. That sounds like yeah. Um, for me, I was on Jimmy Lou's and Skids and Clowns show. We pre-recorded some stuff, and I have to say it's pretty funny. And that's airing tomorrow. Tomorrow, Thursday. Tomorrow's Thursday, right? I'm losing track of days, everyone. This is quarantining. I'm losing track of days. So yes, that's on tomorrow on the Tang Network. So I'm there for a short period of time, but I think you'll laugh. I think you'll laugh because this is supposed to be comedy after all, right? Besides the news and the raging, there's comedy
Yeah.
sprinkled here. Read my stuff. Read my stuff. That's funny.
Yeah, I don't have a lick of comedy in me. Like I had this really dark sense of humor and nobody understands.
You'll find your people, Rage. There are people who find my stuff funny. Not you figure out what resonates with people. I figured out pretty far that people don't appreciate my Weimar Republic jokes, and so I just went to more accessible information, more accessible material. All right, everyone, thank you
Yeah.
for watching the show. People on Twitter, people on Facebook, people on the tubes. Hey, we're doing this crazy thing tomorrow. No show on Monday because I have to go get tested. And take care. Thanks, Rage.
Oh yeah. Thank you.
I'm hitting the magic